So it is with great pleasure for me to introduce my colleague, Michelle Wong. She's been with the company for about 4 months now, and she's based out of New York City. And Michelle, can you tell us about this app that you worked on and what you're going to be showing us today?
Yeah. So my name is Michelle. I started as a developer advocate at Sendbird this past summer. And one of my first projects to build was something that could showcase how you're able to customize UIKit. And we figured that'd be a good start because UIKit's an easy way of implementing Sendbird into existing applications without really having to build everything out yourself and with pre-made components. So while I wanted to show how to customize all different aspects of it, as I was working through it, I learned so much about Sendbird, how it works, and how UIKit's put together, which really allowed me to customize it into something you're seeing today, which is a Discord-inspired implementation of UIKit. And really just with Discord being a popular application nowadays, we thought that molding UIKit from scratch into a Discord model would really be an excellent way to show what's possible and inspire Sendbird users to step out of the box from what they're originally provided. So I hope this walkthrough is able to really show those steps that I went through and help you guys if you ever jump into it.
Cool, awesome. Okay, so what will we be doing? What we will be doing is we'll be showing a recording that Michelle had done just a little while earlier to kind of walk through everything. So feel free to post questions in chat while the video is going, and we can answer them during. Or you can wait till the Q&A section, which will get more, hopefully more in depth. Okay, so I'm going to start up this recording, and here we go.
Starting off, I wanted to show what the outcome of UIKit Discord layout will look like. So as I'm going through the code, you're able to see how these implementations were able to shape UIKit into what you're seeing right here. So when I first brought up Discord side by side with UIKit, the first thing that stood out to me was the color differences. I went to explore UIKit's documentation, and it mentions that you can customize the theme, specifically the default color schemes. I looked at Discord and the specific color palettes it was using, and then inputted the properties that would change UIKit to give it that Discord gray. So going into our app file, you can see on line 13, I defined my color set that I wanted and then passed it into the Sendbird provider component on line 34. From there, UIKit handled the color changes and it already gave the look and feel to be more like Discord. But there still was a lot of differences between how UIKit's presented and what Discord provides us. Looking at Discord, you can see it has these concepts of either a one-on-one or small group chat and then larger channels that everyone can openly join. So I looked at what Sendbird had in relation and found what we call group channels, which is a chat for small groups of people. Then I had to find the equivalent to the larger group channels that Discord has, and I came across what Sendbird calls open channels. With those two types of channels in mind, I can jump into the app by separating it into 3 separate components on the page. And you see we're going to have the channel list, the channel window, and then the channel settings. So hopping back into our code, we'll go into our customize app. And this is going to be the wrapper for our entire application. And this holds the channel lists as well as the conversation windows. So for the channel list, the first thing I wanted to do was simplify the header. I removed the image, ID, and name and simply put the current user's name followed by server. So it would be Michelle's server. Then I wanted to implement both group channels and open channels to be listed. So I realized while group channels had a pre-made component for its channel list from UIKit, there was no pre-made component that showed open channels. So I created my own channel list for that. Now the way I was able to do that was by going into the open source repo for UIKit, where you can see all of the source code and how every component works behind the scenes. I noticed that there was some sample code that showed how to implement that. So I used that as a basis to implement this in the custom render to the channel list sidebar. Now in Customize App, you can see on line 50, there's SB channel list, which is the group channels channel list pre-made component straight from the UIKit. I utilized the channel list pre-made pre-made function that came with the channel list component on channel select, which is on line 51. I also used render channel preview, which is a function that's built into channel list as well. I passed in the component customize channel preview item, you could see on line 59, and that would return the layout I wanted for the group channels within the channel list. Now going down to line 72, community channel list, this is the custom-made component to render the channel list for the open channels. Here I refer to the group channels channel list pre-made component to understand how it was displayed and copied that as a model for how I wanted the open channels to be displayed. Now going into community channel list, you could see that it's returning add community channel and open channel preview. Both of these components are formatted and necessary for how the group channel list was rendering itself by default. I was able to use that code from the open source repo to do so for open channels. Now, add community channel on line 51. This will hold information on how to actually create a new open channel. And then open channel preview on line 64. This provides a layout for how each channel is displayed within the channel list. Now going back into our channel list, I had to rename our group channels and open channels to be called direct chat and then text channel. Let's see. After that, I made some CSS touch-ups to the channel list, which included removing the original layout with the channel's avatar, timestamp, and message preview, and then replace the channel preview in the channel list to only have a hashtag before each channel name. After the channel list successfully rendered both group channels and open channels, I needed to add the functionality to create a new group channel or open channel from the channel list. So I implemented a plus button to be displayed next to the group channel heading, you can see here, and then one next to the open channels heading. When rendering the group channel list pre-made component, the UIKit actually provides a button with a form to create a new group channel. So that was already in place. Then I connected the plus button here with the capability to create a new open channel within the channel list. So that was hooked up to add community channel that I previously mentioned before. And we can go into that. Now this is right here on add community channel. When we go in, you can see it's returning a form right here. So this included the form to create a new open channel, which is the same layout as group channels form. I went into the open source repo to see the layout as well as what function was in place for group channel to generate that new group channel. Using the same code, I inputted the function necessary to create a new open channel, which you can see on line 16 here. It says create channel. And you can refer to the docs on the Sendbird website and it gives you it right here. So going back into our app, you can see that the next thing I worked on was the channel list footer. So I took the default layout from the pre-made footer component and I included the info that I wanted to appear in the footer. This was just the avatar, the user's name, and then the ID. Now we can go into our conversation window and I'll go back into customize app. So basically, depending on the type of channel being clicked, different channel views will render. So you could see on line 82, conversation chat window, we'll call that, and this is defined up here. When a group channel is being clicked, it's going to return group channel conversation, and then when open channels are clicked, it's going to return the open channel conversation. So starting with open channels, when an open channel is clicked, I render the built-in component from the UIKit called open channel. This is the component that displays the entire conversation window for the open channel, including the messages and how they're aligned. When I first plugged this in, I realized that the default layout of the open channel conversation window aligns perfectly with Discord's chat window and message layout. So I was able to leave it as that. Now going back into our rendering group channel conversation, within this component, I was able to return SB conversation. Now this is the channel component straight from the UIKit. Within this component, I utilized the render chat item function that's built into the channel component and returned customized message item, which you can see right here. Going into customized message item, I found that depending on the specific message being sent or received, you're able to customize the layout for it. So going back into the open source repo, I found the default layouts for rendering an admin message, a file message, and a user message. And then I could pick and choose the things I wanted to take out or leave in and add additional styling to that. However, the first problem that I really ran into was I realized that in group channel conversations, outgoing messages were on the right and incoming messages were on the left. Now, I used CSS to fix that, as well as removing the chat bubble around each message, removing the message background color. Then I included the current user's avatar and name next to each of their own messages, since it didn't originally provide that for us. The next problem I saw was that while UIKit provides open channels with a drop-down options button for each message being sent or received, I wanted to provide the same functionality for group channels as well. So going into user message, you can see how it's returning the layout for the specific message. And then I was able to implement here, starting on line 64, this entire chunk. This is how Open Channels was laying out the drop-down menu for itself. So I implemented that into group channels. Now going into our channel settings, I'll go back into our customized app. Depending if you're opening a group channel or an open channel is where you're gonna have to go to implement specific settings component for that type of channel. So when a group channel conversation is rendered, in our group channel conversation, you can see that the group channel settings component straight from the UI kit will be rendered as well on line 43 here. And in turn, when the open channel conversation is rendered, so we can go into open channel conversation, our open channel settings are rendered within this component under our open channel conversation window. Both group channels and open channels, the settings were left as is and just had some custom CSS implementations made. So starting with our group channels, the default for a user who created that channel, it provides an edit button to edit the current channel's image or name, drop-down options where you can see the operators, the members, muted members, banned members, a button to freeze the channel, and then a button to leave. However, for a user who didn't create that group channel, the only available properties shown are the edit button to change the avatar or the channel's name, and then a drop down to view the members, and then a button to leave that channel. Now in our open channels, the default for a user who created that open channel can see an edit button to edit the current channel's image or name, and then the channel's URL, the participants, and then a button to delete that channel. You can see this on the right-hand side here. For a user who didn't create that channel though, they're only able to see the participants in the group. So after all these implementations are in place, you can see the results show us a UI kit with a Discord feel. UI kit gives developers the flexibility to really craft their chat experiences how they envision. I hope this walkthrough was able to help you see just how that was able to be done.
Thank you for that, Michelle. This project I thought came out just like incredibly well. Like the visuals, the UI, I thought looked super clean, and you know, the sort of gotchas that you kind of walked through was interesting, and it was great to see that someone doesn't have to go through a whole lot of effort to kind of visually make this a reality. Was that generally true of your experience, or am I just like kind of oversimplifying?
Yeah, honestly, the whole process was really just learning how to navigate through Sendbird and what it was giving me. And that was the hardest part, is just like finding, I guess, on the documentations what I needed. And once I learned what I needed, it was just piecing it all together and really letting it lay out. It just flowed fine and perfectly once I had those specific functionalities. So I thought it was really fun, and I'm happy you liked it. Cool,
excellent. If if anyone has any questions, feel free to turn on your mic and jump on or post it in the chat. Otherwise, I've got a few questions for you, Michelle, if no one else is, or if everyone's kind of like typing away. Oh, hi, David. Did you have a question?
Hi. Yeah, I'll jump in right here. So we're just about to evaluate Sendbird, and it's going to be a React Native application. And my question was about I think it was called the file message type that you had looked at changing. And I was curious, is that the component in UIKit that you kind of use for anything that isn't just a chat message, like if it's a link or an actual photo?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, how extensible that component is, and if that's what I would use.
Yeah, that's the component you would use. And it would be anywhere from like an image to like a video. And then within the file message, you can really alter it, I guess, however you would want it to react to that, maybe that photo or that video, or how it would be displayed, or a simple file message coming through. So.
And you could use it for non-standard types as well. So if you had like a survey question or something like that.
Yeah. So I'm actually working on an app currently. I just finished that. It isn't just a strict admin or file or user message. It's a voting message or a suggestion message. So that was totally customized to be a separate entity, I guess. And that was able to be thrown in there as well too. So if you ever think of something you might want that's not an admin file or user, you could create them as well and use, or just look at the layouts that maybe you would want or something you would model it after. And then that's how you're able to do that.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Cool. I did post a link to the project that Michelle did. All the code is up in that repo link in the chat room. I'll also post a link to a blog that she wrote about this. So if you want a more narrative approach to the whole process for creating that app. Okay, so Michelle, one of the features of Discord that I really like is the ability to create these sort of like audio rooms. They're almost like little clubhouse rooms, right? Where someone can just leave it on and people can kind of jump in and out, but you don't have to really like activate anything like Slack has, right? So is this a feature that could be added to your app?
Yeah, 100%. So I think in the future, that's something we wanted to do, the near future, honestly, within the month. We are going to add voice channels because Sendbird provides as well. So that would be, you could just implement it straight into the channel list and then have it render the same way as our open channels and group channels were being rendered. And it would just be as simple as that, just hopping in for a voice call. And on the click of that, it would just be me and you talking in the channel.
And for anyone who wasn't with us for the last Code Cafe, we had Minyok, who was here talking about audio channels and creating a kind of a mini clubhouse experience on iOS. So that was very specific for the iOS platform, which is, of course, different than the JavaScript app that you did. But a lot of the core high-level stuff is the same. So we'll send everyone a link there later. I'll dig it up before the end of this episode so that you guys can check it out if you want to. Cool. Was there any more? I mean, you did mention quite a few things that you had experienced while building this app, but if someone here today, right after this episode, wanted to jump right in and start building their own version of your app inside, their own applications, what would you tell them to be mindful of before or while they're starting?
It could just be intimidating in the beginning, I think, where it's like you want to implement something simple and it ends up being like going down a little rabbit hole where you need specific components and files just to generate one thing. And it's really a matter of just copying the models as they are given in UIKit. And once they're up and running, you're able to alter them so easily. So I think it might seem intimidating if you looked at the files that are necessary, but once UIKit's just handing them to you. So once you're able to implement them correctly and you know that this file needs these files, put them in the right group, and then you can just do whatever you want and run with it. So I think it might seem a little scary when you're like digging through the code, but it's honestly, once you have everything set together, it works out perfectly fine. And there's not a lot of alterations you would need to do so.
Excellent, cool. Let's see, Hamid was asking, is there an example in Flutter of this Discord app? Which I guess I should answer since I've been doing most of the Flutter sample apps. So right now we didn't have a Discord Flutter clone queued up, but I'm guessing, Hamid, you're interested in such a sample app. So we will definitely talk about doing an equivalent version of this, if that'll help. Question though for you though, Hamid, are you deploying using Flutter? Are you deploying to iOS, Android, and web, or are you just deploying to mobile? All platforms? Okay. Yeah. So one limitation of the current Flutter Sendbird SDK is it will only deploy to mobile platforms at the moment. So it doesn't support the web deployment. So in this case, you could use Flutter to deploy to iOS and Apple, or iOS and Android, and then do basically a version of what Michelle has done for web is what you would have to do. That's a good question. I haven't heard from the engineering team if they were doing that. That is something that I've requested and a number of folks have asked for. So I think it's going to be primarily a bandwidth issue for next year if our Flutter developers can put that in. But yes, yeah, right now you would have to use the React version. Well, I mean, you wouldn't have to. You could use, depending on how complex the features you're using, you could use the platform API in a number of places in a Flutter version to make it work. But in general, in terms of like rapid prototyping, rapid development, it would be probably fastest to use the Flutter SDK for mobile and then do a React app separate. Cool. Okay. Manav, let's see. You're asking check documentation. Oh, okay. Pretty well explained. Okay, great. Awesome. Glad you like the documentation. We collectively spend a ton of time trying to continuously improve documentation. If you keep track of it, you can see that the docs team themselves are constantly renewing things, looking at the analytics data, trying to figure out the fastest way to get people to the data that they're looking for. So I'm glad that works out for you. But if anyone has any suggestions, definitely reach out to us because we love hearing feedback and finding ways to make everything better, faster, smoother. If you do have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to us. We will be sending an email following this event to give you additional links. And I am going to post here Michelle's LinkedIn profile. So if you want to reach out to her to ask her directly about this project, you can do that as well. Cool. Okay. So again, links will be coming in email. And I want to thank you again all for showing up. This is always a lot of fun. It's been great. Have a great rest of your day and, happy holidays. All the holidays and especially New Year's. I know New Year's is a huge one for everyone. Definitely my family. Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you guys.